Oh, my friends, today's story is about a snake who turned from a woman running in the alleys from the intensity of her longing for motherhood. When the people of the village see her, they rush to hide in their homes, and everyone who sees her screams in terror, while the snake only repeated, "My child is hungry, I am nursing my child. Is there anyone who will nurse my children?" But the people, out of intense fear, were running after her with sticks in their hands. The snake fled on her own until she reached a mountain, and there she raised her hands in supplication to God while she was crying, "Oh my God, what sin have I committed? My husband is abroad, and today I have become a snake, and my child is writhing in hunger, alone at home." Oh my friends, this woman committed such a great injustice that your eyes will tear upon hearing it. Then she was struck by the supplication of an oppressed person, so she became wandering lost between the mountains and forests. Today's story is about the curse of a supplication that caused great destruction, and this woman could not escape from it. So she lived many years away from her children. So what happened, and why was this destruction written in her fate? Who prayed against her, and why? Let's hear this story, my friends. This story is about a poor woman named Sakina, who was living with her husband in a small village. Her small house was what helped her. After marriage, they were extremely happy. She loved bright clothes and shiny bangles, and she owned many of them after marriage, and she always seemed adorned after she gained her husband's love. She felt that she was the happiest girl in the world. But after a year of their marriage, her happiness began to fade, as if the eyes of people had struck her. People started whispering and asking about the child. "Are you still without children?" It is better for a person to have their first child quickly. If it is delayed the first time, it is always delayed. People began talking a lot and started offering her different advice. And Sakina became confused by their words, afraid. She turned to her husband saying, "O Akbar, people do not stop asking me about children. I am tired of replying to them. The treasures of God do not run out. So why does He not grant me a child? Take me to a doctor to examine me. Maybe there is hope, and maybe it will be written for me to become a mother." Sakina was saying that with sorrow, while Akbar consoled her and said, "None of this is true. You do not need any doctor or medicine. You are completely fine, but if your comfort will come only after visiting a doctor, I will take you to one." Akbar took an appointment with a doctor to reassure Sakina and went with her. The doctor examined Sakina well and told her everything is fine. There is only a delay from God, so pray to God to grant you soon. Sakina returned from the doctor full of hope and began to believe that she would soon become a mother. In those days, she was happy and said to people, "God will respond to me soon." But the days passed, and the good news she was waiting for did not come. And with time, Sakina began to wither and lose hope. During this period, 5 years passed since the marriage, and when Sakina completely lost hope, God brought her the good news and gave her the glad tidings that she would become a mother. When Sakina heard this news, she did not believe it and burst into tears, saying, "You are joking with me." But when Akbar confirmed it to her with love and sincerity, she could no longer contain her joy. She began to live in happiness and waited eagerly for the moment her baby would come into this world. In those days, Akbar was taking great care of Sakina and providing her with everything she needed and brought her everything that might come to her mind. He was doing what was beyond his capacity for her comfort and happiness. And after 9 months of patience and waiting, Sakina gave birth to a beautiful one, as if, with this child, the calm and silence that used to fill the house ended with the arrival of this child. Even Akbar himself was very happy when he saw him, and in those days a job offer came to Akbar abroad. Sakin and tranquility, he traveled abroad for a better future. The child's age. You tried to prevent him from traveling, but this decision must have placed your burden. After Akbar's departure, Sakina was sad, but she soon made her son her companion and spent her time with him, as if she had become a prisoner in her small house with her child. She did not go out or visit anyone. She lost her son, her whole life. Akbar was no longer present, and she felt a great emptiness, but she used to comfort herself with his presence. One time, Sakina was playing with her child. This placed her in your life while I heard you. She was struck with deep sadness and began to beg him while crying, but he did not listen to her. He said, "According to the promise, you will not see your son before 15 years have passed." Then the poor man left the place. After the poor man left, Sakina tried to carry her child, but suddenly her body was struck by several strong tremors. She panicked and moved away from her son. She was looking at him from afar while he cried, but she did not realize that she was transforming from a human into a snake. Sakina had turned into a snake and moved away from her son. Sakina's little child was writhing from hunger, crying and searching for his mother. And when Sakina saw her child's longing, her heart shattered from the pain of motherhood, and she also cried. But she had become helpless, and nothing was in her hands anymore. The curse of that poor man had brought her to this state. Sakina was crying while looking at her son from afar, and she knew that it was time to breastfeed her child and that he needed milk. And seeing her son suffer, Sakina left the house and began knocking on the doors of the village people, seeking help and asking for assistance. She was trying to explain her situation to them, but everyone who saw her at the door got scared and closed the door immediately. In fact, some of them even beat her. Despite that, Sakina did not despair. The image of her hungry child never left her eyes, and she wanted by any means to secure him food. And when she found no one to help her in the village, she decided to go to the forest, hoping to find something to relieve her son's hunger. Sakina headed to the forest, but after wandering for a long time within it, she did not find anything she could feed to her son. She was crying and groaning from the intensity of helplessness, and the feelings of motherhood were burning in her heart, but she was at the peak of helplessness. She couldn't do anything. She sat under a tree crying bitterly and began to call out to God, saying, "Oh Lord, you know everything. I did not mean to ignore the voice of the poor man. I was busy with the door and did not hear his call. He cursed me, and today I am separated from my child. I cannot feed my son. My chest is torn for him, but I have no way left to bring food." Sakina was crying bitterly. At that moment, an old woman heard her words. The old woman was cutting wood in the forest to sell it and support herself. When she heard all, "What do you ask for like this? What is this need that someone would curse you like that? What is the story?" The old woman began asking Sakina many questions. As for Sakina, who was now in the form of a snake, her eyes started to shine when she saw this old woman in front of her. Hope began to creep into Sakina's heart, and she felt that God had sent her help from the unseen. She stood up and told the old woman all the events she had gone through. Then she said to her, "Please, take my son and raise him for 15 years. I will give you everything I can. I am under the effect of an evil curse, and I cannot approach my son until I return to my human form. I have no one in this world, and my husband has traveled abroad for work, and I know nothing about his situation. I cannot leave my son alone without care." The old woman's heart softened when she heard Sakina's words, and she said to her, "Don't worry. I will take care of your son as if he were my own." When Sakina heard this, her heart was very happy. She looked at the old woman with grateful eyes and said, "I will not forget this favor of yours for the rest of my life. You helped me in a very difficult time. I will keep praying for you as long as I live." Then the old woman went to Sakina's house, took her child, and moved with him to her hut, and began to treat him with love, and poured on him her motherly feelings. At the same time, in the house of the village, Chief Al-Zamin, and after many years of marriage, he finally had a child. From, how do I protect my wife from this sadness? Even the midwife began to think with him of a solution. Then one of Al-Zamin's servants said, "Sir, what if we temporarily take a child from one of the villagers, and when your wife's health improves, we return him to his family?" Al-Zamin liked this idea and immediately issued an order to bring any small child found in the village to fill his wife's arms, even if temporarily. The servants began searching the entire village for a small child, but they did not find any child in any house, until one of the servants said to Al-Zamin, "I saw a beautiful child with an old woman in a hut in the middle of the forest. If you allow me, I can bring him and negotiate with her." Al-Zamin liked the idea and sent the servant to the forest. The servant went to the hut and negotiated with the old woman, saying, "We will give you a lot of money and land." This, what she got. She feels light joy. She turned to it. The debt ended. She went. She searched a lot in vain. No trace of the child or the woman. Sakina felt sadness and loss. Then she remembered the old poor man who promised her that he would reunite her with her son after 15 years. So she went to him quickly and told him what had happened. "Oh, Father, you promised me that after the curse is lifted, you would reunite me with my son. Now everything has ended, so why don't I see him? I cannot live without him even for a moment." Sakina cried in front of the poor man. So he gave her some reassurance and said, "You're looking for work?" Sakina began working as a cleaner in the house of Al-Zamindar. Every time she saw his son, her heart ached, and she thought of her own son. She would wonder, surely my son must be around this age now. What does he look like? How is he doing? As she watched the Zamindar's son, the feelings of motherhood surged within her. But she would calm down when she remembered the words of the poor man. One day, while she was cleaning the palace courtyard, Sakina saw the Zamindar's son playing. She stopped working and started watching him with tear-filled eyes, her face glowing strangely. Alzina, the Zamindar's wife, noticed how Sakina was looking at the boy in this way and became angry. She said, "How dare you describe him and look at him like that?" "Your face," Sakina began. "My lady, your son?" But she couldn't finish. She remembered when he was small. Sakina started crying, holding her heart, and Alzina asked her, "Did you lose your child? What happened?" Then Sakina told her the entire story and cried a lot. She said, "His soul was tied to ours and he never left our sight for a moment. Now that he is sick, we are extremely worried. We sit by his side day and night, but his illness is mysterious and he is not improving." Al-Zamindar tried several treatments, but to no avail. His son's condition was worsening and he was deeply saddened by the illness, wanting to save him by any means. Then one of his servants said, "Sir." Upon hearing this, Al-Zamindar's eyes sparkled, though he appeared tense. Alzina said, "Thank you, Father. I'll place my hand on his forehead and say those words. I'm confident he will recover immediately." She approached the boy, but the Zamindar interrupted, saying, "What are you doing? Don't believe that poor man. He knows nothing. How can he be healed just like that? Don't be deceived by his words. We will take him to a professional doctor." But Alzina responded. She looked at the Zamindar in surprise, but he turned his face away from her, avoiding eye contact. She broke down crying while the Zamindar hugged her and began to console her, telling her the whole truth. He began searching for, "Perhaps she deserves." Sakina quickly rushed toward. As soon as she said that, the child's body moved, and he suddenly woke up from his coma. Everyone present was astonished by this strange scene, and they all began looking at Sakina in amazement. Then the poor man said, "This is his real mother. She gave birth to him, and I was the one who cursed her. She remained a snake in the forest for 15 years. Now, her long test is over. She was searching for her son, and fate reunited them in this miraculous way." Then the old poor man said, "They have now been reunited, and I have fulfilled my promise." Then he quietly left the place. As for the old woman, she began to cry. and asked Sakina for forgiveness, saying, "I hid the truth, and because of that, you lost your son." But Sakina forgave her because she saw that her son had grown up well and was raised with kindness. Then Alzina came forward and said, "Please don't take your son. I raised him night and day as if he were my own. I gave him my love and affection." When Sakina saw the state of Alzamindar and his wife, her heart softened. Then Alzamindar stepped forward and said, "I am happy that my son has been reunited with his real mother. If you don't mind, you can live here as my sister. I won't object to that. This way, you'll remain close to your son, and Alzina won't have to be separated from him." Sakina liked this suggestion and agreed to it. From that day on, they all lived happily together with the child. Sakina's difficult days were over, and happiness returned to her life once more.